Welcome to Tell the Damn Story, the show that explores the many ways to navigate the successes and failures that aspiring and struggling writers face to make your journey that much easier.
Chris? Chris? Chris?
Oh, sorry, Alex. How are you? I was just reading this great book, getting ready for Kids Comic-Con, which is coming up.
Yes.
I don't know if you know about that at all, Alex.
I have mine too. I have mine too. Here, there we go.
This is by our friends Tom Nagowski and Janine Ackerson, and it's Halloween Head.
Yes.
And there's the guy with the Halloween head.
Yes. They talked about that on one of our episodes. They thought of that. Funny thing, they thought of that when they were younger, when they were like in high school or something like that, but then never got around to doing anything with it until their adult years. Something fell.
Yes, I got it.
Yeah.
And just put it over here for today. Come on.
It won't stand up. Okay, there we go.
And the thing that is memorable about that is that they were able to have those ideas.
Yeah.
And they were free to think creatively because they were given opportunities to say, oh, this is interesting. And oh, I want to do this, which my friend here, my co-host, and hello, everybody, and welcome to Tell the Damn Story.
Yes.
And today we're going to talk about my friend over here and what he has done for, are you ready? 18 years. That's right. Alex Simmons is the creator.
Co-creator, actually.
Co-creator.
Yeah.
And one of the producers of the annual Kids Comic-Con. And I'm going to let him explain what all that is. And he has done it for 18 years, and it's coming up again. Alex, what is the Kids Comic-Con? And ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get to how this affects your writing in a minute or two. So stay with us. This is what we call a buried lead. It's coming.
Yes.
It's coming.
We're gonna segue very nicely.
Give you some background, and then we're gonna pitch you what we're talking about today. Yeah. Alex,
and the reason we're going to do that is because once again, as always with Tell the Damn Story, we're going to share our experiences to make yours as a writer creative a little bit easier. So
damn Skippy.
Right, that's right.
Well, it is a children's con, so we got to get the vocabulary right.
Yeah, darn Skippy.
Okay.
So, Kids Comic-Con, many moons ago, and it's funny, it ties into something you said just a few moments ago about they had the privilege, they were in a place where they could, with their imagination and their creativity, just sort of get ideas and run with them and play with them. And even if they didn't follow through at that exact time, they felt free to come up with stuff. And Kids Comic-Con was very, very much inspired by not only my own childhood, but a lot of the young people that I was privileged to work with as a creative when I was teaching workshops, art workshops and creative writing workshops and comics workshops. Young people have a lot of imagination. Young children have a lot of imagination. Teenagers have a lot of imagination. But one of the things I was noticing years ago was that adults were sort of pushing back on that. Again, a lot of the, stop asking so many questions. This is nonsense. Get a real job. All those things that sort of push down the what if, and maybe one day I could become, and how does that work? And could I make that? And could you show me that? All those things that really inspire us to strive for something more. And so one of the things that I wanted to do was, because I was a writer and I was in writing comics and things like that, is I wanted the kids who were coming to Comic-Cons to have an opportunity to meet with actual writers and meet with actual illustrators and find out how. And just show them how and let them create something of their own that they could take away. And so we did it one year at a convention in Chicago first, and then one in Philadelphia. The one in Philadelphia, which is ETBOC, we'll talk about that another time, allowed us to keep doing that every year. They would do a workshop for kids every year at their events. The one in Chicago, we had a great time that one time. A lot of pros in the business enjoyed working with the kids and showing them things and talking about it and answering questions. But the event itself went, we could use that space for more money-making things. I'm sorry, guys, but that was exactly the way it was put to us. So here in New York City, a gentleman who was I hope I have his title correctly, was the director of educational outreach for Bronx Community College. We got to talking about a project he wanted me to do there, a workshop he wanted me to do with teens and things like that. And that went really well. So then he said, well, what else would you like to do? And I'm getting to where Kids Comic Con came from. He then said, what else would you like to do? I said, well, I've always wanted to
Ladies and
do.
gentlemen, this is the brief explanation.
Yes, this is, I'm racing here. I always wanted to do a panel where artists came in and talked about how they create their own independent comics and work for the industry and all that sort of thing. He said, okay, let's do that, right? How do we do that? How do we pull people? So I pulled together about 6 people. They gave us a conference room because they figured we'll have maybe 5 or 6 students there. The word went out. About 200 students showed up. They took up every seat, every corner, almost every corner of the room they could. And then the teachers going by or hearing about what was going on started showing up, and they had standing room only. It was jammed in there. And that event was so successful. And again, it was about I had ideas. I wanted to write. I always wanted to draw, blah, 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 blah. And kids go, well, how do you, and how do you, and I want to. And so that was great. And then Eugene Adams said to me, what else do you want to do? He hadn't learned not to ask me that. Because the very next thing I said
I
was,
have to learn
well,
not to ask you to give me a brief answer.
yeah, well, here you go. And so here the thing is again, I said, well, I've always wanted to do a comic convention for kids and families to do the same thing, show them how
But
and let them have a
Alex,
good time.
there's comic conventions everywhere.
Yeah, more so now than 18 years ago
So why would a kids comic even be needed?
because they were being squeezed out.
That's called a setup, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, they were being
Squeezed
squeezed out.
out by what?
Oh,
He
funny you
said,
should
further
ask.
setting us up here.
Funny you should ask. They were being squeezed out by the more quote unquote adult or mature material. So aside from more violence, more gore and things like that, more language, more, cursing and things like that in terms of more adult material. And I have nothing against pretty women, nothing at all. But a lot of women who were, let's call them
Clad.
provocative and,
Yeah,
exotic and wearing skimpies and all of that, also with somewhat adult material, were creating their own comics
right.
and then selling those at these events. And so literally it started to be a situation where a parent and their kids could be walking down an aisle and run
Right.
into Batman and then Archie stuff and then Betty the Bouncing Bimbo
Right.
and
Well, but
more
also,
graphic material.
then slashing,
Yep. Yep.
bloody horror and that kind of stuff. Even the
Literally
big,
guts coming out and things like that.
well, even the big guys, DC and Marvel. I remember I took a very young godson of yours at the time, Tyler,
Yes.
to the New York Comic Con, and we bumped into Paul Levitz, who was
Ah,
standing
yeah.
on the DC. It was more than a booth; it was a section, right?
Yeah.
And I introduced myself, and I introduced young Tyler, and I said he might be your youngest Robin fan. And Paul Levitz, I have a lot of respect for Paul Levitz, and I apologize that this happened to him. But he said, "Oh, do you read the Robin comics?" And Tyler looked right up at him. He says, "No, we had to stop because there was too much blood on the cover. There had recently been a picture where Robin was literally about to drown in blood. Blood was on it. That to me is the definition of why, and God bless DC and God bless, I'm not trying to
Bashing
belittle
anybody.
any of
No.
them or disrespect Paul Levitz because he was so gracious about that in his answer to, oh, we do have Teen Titans Go and trying to push them, and Tyler was like, I really like that Robin comic. I was like, wow. God bless him. And he was, I don't even know if he was double digits at the time. God bless him. So you could see that he was missing it, you know?
Hmm.
And I always felt that Kids Comic Con was an answer to everything that we just spoke about.
Yeah.
Because you can go there and find stuff that is age appropriate, subject appropriate, without censoring,
Yep.
and we can talk about that. So let's talk about, I mean, this is community service. Listen,
Yeah.
All right, I don't really argue with you that much on television story.
Okay.
I'm usually the diplomat and the peacemaker and the soft-spoken one of Tell a Damn Story, as our audience will attest in the
Sure
comments
they will.
below. Many of the audience members will say, yes, we often see Chris Ryan's halo during the broadcasts,
The
but I
light
am
bouncing
going to
off of
push
his.
back here because you have organized and co-produced, right? You
Yeah,
and
yeah,
Gene,
yeah.
a convention on Bronx Community College campus for most of its history for 18 years. All the work that goes into putting on a convention and promoting it and booking the people and getting them to come in and all that stuff. And how much money have you made?
Well,
Right. Right. Not even
well,
a no longer produced penny. You haven't even made a penny, right?
you know,
Therefore,
yeah.
community service. You do tremendous community service with Kids Comic Con.
Yeah, I have to say that okay, yes, yes. And I would say that it wouldn't work if it weren't for the volunteers and the fact that the college gives us the space.
Who also don't get paid.
Right.
And the
This is true.
college who
There's no
also don't get
salaries
paid.
involved here. Yeah. There's no salaries involved. And someone might say, well, I remember coming at one point when you used to charge it. We stopped charging at the door years ago. We did charge for tables like $25 a
Right.
table. And that we don't do as frequently as we used to because all we were doing was like trying to cover some of the expenses.
Right.
And 9 times out of 10, we didn't because we wanted to make sure that it was accessible to the families, and again, families from the community, absolutely. But we had people coming from the five boroughs. A few times we had people coming down from Connecticut, and just because it was geared towards kids appropriate, age appropriate material and family appropriate material. We had workshops and things for where artists would show how they do what they do and let kids do projects. It was all of those things to have fun, to
Right.
validate and stimulate imagination and curiosity, to let kids know those normal things you feel when you want to know something, when you want to experiment and try and
Right.
draw something or write something or be someone. Those are normal. Those are absolutely 100% valid. And you should be able to do that with all the enthusiasm and energy that you can find. And so,
I agree. I agree.
yeah.
And Alex, I have two more questions.
Oh, okay.
One, when is this year's Kids Comic Con happening and where exactly is it happening? So that people who might be watching this and say, oh, now we have something we can do with the nephews.
Okay.
They might
I'm,
be able to participate.
I'm going to address that by starting out and saying, for those of you sitting there going, but I'm a writer,
Another brief
how
answer,
does this
ladies and
matter to
gentlemen.
me? As a writer, how does this matter to me? I'm going to say again
You
about
just jumped all over my
reading.
second question.
Yes, I did, but that's okay. I just wanted to remind people we're going to get to the writing aspect of this. All right, this is very much about writing
We
and reading.
really buried the lead.
Yes, but sorry about that. But I was concerned that they would forget and start to change the dial. Where is it? The event is going to be on the campus of Bronx Community College, which is in the Bronx on
On the
183rd
west side of the
Street.
Bronx.
Yes, on the west side of the Bronx, 183rd Street and University Avenue. And it's going to be December 13th from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. And if you go on the Kids Comic Con website, which we'll drop a link in here, or you go on our Kids Comic Con Facebook page, there's posters and links there too. You can find out, how to get there by public transportation or driving or whatever. We have all that information up there. So anyway, again, December 13th, Saturday, December 13th from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. on the campus of Bronx Community College in the Bronx in New York City. So you had another question or should I?
I did. I
Yes.
did have another question. So, Alex, we were talking in the green room,
Yes, which is, yeah, green and
fictitious,
white.
about what this all has to do with Tell the Damn Story and our readers. So my question becomes, can you explain what this has to do with Tell the Damn Story?
Again, starting with the core theme of KCC, which is to validate kids' curiosity, imagination, and reading and writing. It has a lot to do with the reading and writing because, again, it's about what material is available for kids, what material is accessible to kids, whether or not even reading and writing is promoted, not just in school, but in their day-to-day life. A lot of young people who, just to say, aren't attracted to reading, they'll watch a movie, they'll watch something on television, they'll scroll on their handheld devices and things like that. But reading a book or reading a comic even doesn't necessarily cross their minds. And I think that has a major impact on expanding their consciousness and their awareness of things. And one of the reasons that I believe, anyway, that I've seen over the years that people don't read or young people don't read as much is they're not made aware of material that would be attractive to them, that would be of interest to them. Sometimes stories are mentioned from the quote unquote adult aspect of it. Men are doing this, women are doing this, older people are doing this. But what are kids doing? Who are kids' heroes? What is information that a kid should know that affects their day to day? And that's not always put out that way. We will definitely want to get their attention for what kind of music. We want you to listen to this kind of music. Buy these clothes, buy these shoes, have this cool device. But we're not giving them reason to seek either information or entertainment that is geared specifically towards them. And I felt that when they don't see that there is this for me in this world, a lot of them don't think I can also create this in this world. I can become a writer or an illustrator or a publisher or an editor or a colorist or any number of other things. I think we need to continue to encourage young people to be an active part of this world. And one of the ways is by letting them know that the ideas that they have in their head are not nonsensical. I mean, I'm not talking about dangerous things. I'm talking about, some of those curiosities and things. They're valid. And there's a lot of books that are being written for young people in either the more traditional fashion, books with in the libraries and things like that, but there are also comics and graphic novels that are being produced either by the big two or three. I'm not sure how many that is now, and also a lot of great independent material. And we just like to have kids become more aware of that because there's so many subjects and so much information and so many stories and myths and things that they're not privy to because they're not seeing this put in front of them.
So,
This year's, I'm sorry, did you want to say
no,
something?
please continue.
This year's theme is called Timeline Defenders. Timeline Defenders. And it's about, let's put it this way, because this is a Comic Con, right? And it's about, colorful characters and superheroes and things like that. We have a particular focus, pardon me, on a lot of the superheroes that young people may have become aware of through the films or through comics. But we're also talking about, we're really shining a light on the different cultures and countries and genders that these characters reflect from Europe, from Africa, from the Polynesian countries, from Native Americans. We're really focusing on the wide breadth of human beings, in this case, with superpowers or who are doing heroic things, so that kids can see somewhere out there someone who looks like them or can learn about, oh, wow, this group has this character and this character comes from such and such. And what about that particular culture? How does that tie into the legends and things like that? We're really about stimulating their curiosity about the world and seeing a bigger, brighter view of what the world is made up of, how many different kinds of people the world is made up of. So the Timeline Defenders is about superheroes from different countries and different cultures and things like that through time. from back in the past all the way to the present. And we're going to have some games and things for them to do, but we're also going to have material for them to read and information for them to collect while they're there that will, again, make them aware of other types of heroes from different places. And I think that's necessary, all things considered. I think we need to be reminded that the world is a very big place with variety on infinitum.
Yes, if you're in the New York tri-state area and you are a librarian or a teacher of young children or have young children, maybe 8 to 18, but there is some stuff for slightly younger, right?
There's also,
Um,
yeah, right, yeah, 8 to 18, but younger as well,
so
yeah.
on December 13th, which is next week, make your way to Bronx Community College and follow the signs to Kids Comic Con with your chitlins if you want, of your children, and and it's a safe environment, it's welcoming, and there's a ton of stuff for them.
Yep.
If you're looking for, man, I want to get something that's going to capture their imaginations. I want to get them reading in 2026. This is the place. Go check it out. Now,
Yes, good, because I was hoping.
Alex has more to say.
Yeah.
We
I,
almost made it, writers. We almost made it.
yeah. The other thing I wanted to say is also there's a particular, again, for aspiring and emerging writers, there's life in writing books and stories for young people, whether we're talking children or teenagers. It's not just about novels and things for the adult marketplace. And there's a particular skill set for doing that. It's not writing, it's not dumbing down the
Right.
topics. It's writing to the age appropriateness of the scenario, choosing your words or expressing your thoughts in a clear way that young people of a particular age will be able to comprehend, understand, get it, that sort of thing. So, I
Mhm.
mean, I've been doing this for 30 years, and whether it's familiar characters like Batman or Scooby-Doo or Archie or Tarzan or anything like that, which are all characters I've written. There's also the books that I've worked on, the graphic novels I've worked on that had historical figures in it, like Harriet Tubman. There's Jerry Craft, who
The
we've
one
had
and
on the
only.
show. Yeah, he's award-winning, major award-winning, Newbery
Is
and a
Jerry
number.
Craft going to be there?
No, unfortunately, Jerry is traveling the globe,
Yes, he is. God bless him.
promoting, what have been extremely successful books. But again, his graphic novel, the first one in particular, New Kids, which is about a young black kid who goes to a predominantly white school in a very, very sort of highbrow influence backdrop, and he's coming from a different environment. It's not a hostile book. It's not a hostile book. It's
No.
all about just where do I fit in? How do I adjust? Who are these new people? How do they treat me?
An
It's just
actual,
about
a
life.
sweet
Yeah,
story. Yeah.
just very, very nice and very open. And that's one of the reasons it won a Newbery Award because it is so open and it's so revealing and
What,
transparent.
what's its current status in America?
Yeah, that's a whole nother mindset. And just to limit my political reactions to that, I'll simply say that sometimes truth scares people,
Yeah.
even when it's not hostile. Okay, so
But but Kids Comic Con is politics free.
yeah,
Yeah. So don't worry about that.
yeah,
Just
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 go
because
have a
me
good
know
time.
Chris did that.
Yeah. But for Jerry, I was just going to say that for Jerry, the fact that he was doing this, a kid just trying to be, is really the heart of that story. And
Right.
it's been, it's just received so well in so many places. It's based on his own experience.
Right.
So writing from what you know, what you've experienced, what you've felt, especially those tender times in your young life, that's valid because I guarantee, to go into that, I guarantee that somewhere out there, there are young people going through that maybe in a different setting, but they're definitely going through where do I belong? How do I fit in? Am I this? Am I that?
Somewhere out there. Sorry.
Oh God, help me. Yeah. So
I got Les Mis on. All
yeah,
right.
but that's
So
that's that's Jerry's just Jerry's book. So again, some of the things that I've written have also taken from either my life experience or from fun scenarios that I knew would sort of stimulate and entertain, but also would inform. So I've had fun with that sort of thing as well. So I
Well,
think again, writers should consider writing for the young. Yes, Chris.
Alex, there are viewers and listeners out there who are creative on their own. And sometimes we call them emerging writers. Sometimes, they have a few things out, but they may be listening to all this, and they may be listening to Kids Comic Con and saying, you know what? God, I would love to write for that audience, but I don't even know how to start. How would you, how do you know what's age appropriate to write? How do you know whether it's vocabulary or subject matter? How do you do that? And I think here we are. We have finally gotten to it, ladies and gents. Today, we want to explore that a little bit. What if you want to create a book that you could proudly bring to Kids Comic Con and offer to the readers there? What's the do's and don'ts? What's the parameters? How do you know age groups? What do you do and all that?
Okay, so that's a very large question, broad question here. So I will
You're welcome.
respond to it in terms of KCC first. So, for instance, KCC, we don't really like to have books that have a lot of gratuitous violence. So, dismembering, disemboweling, guts hanging out, things like that. That's for
I'm
a
out.
different
No,
convention.
just
Yeah, that no, I meant outside the body, right?
oh,
Okay.
oh, oh.
Yeah, that's for a different Comic-Con. I'm not saying don't do those kind of books. I'm just saying that's for a different Comic-Con, not this one. No cursing. No, none of the F-bombs or, certain words like that. No. Yes, people do use that language. Yes, it is in literature throughout. That's fine. But that's for a different Comic-Con, not this one. The other thing too, oh, no extreme, sexual content. None of that. Again, yes, it's all out there in the world, but not for this Comic Con. So
Define extreme sexual content.
nudity and sexual acts. Kissing is okay, but
How
if
about lust?
what do you mean in terms of how it's depicted?
Like looking longingly across
Looking
the
longingly
platform.
is okay. I
How
mean
about
that's
the awkward discovery of body changes?
I think that can be handled in a way that's appropriate for this kind of an event. But
Oh,
if you have the kid standing there with his hanging out or a
no,
girl
no,
that's
no, no. But
fully exposed,
there might be
no.
some embarrassing tightness in the pantal area. But
Again, I think
I,
that would
I'm
be
testing
for,
to see whether Genius High would fit into Kids Comic Con.
again, is there any cursing in Genius High?
Couple of dams, I think. I don't think
That's
there's any
that's that's
F-bombs.
okay. That's okay.
Yeah. I'd have
Like
to
I'm
look
saying,
again, see if
the
there's
F
any F-bombs.
bomb, no. The mother F bomb, no. Things like that. We're really, and again, we do have older teens who come there.
Right.
And sometimes they'll say, "Well, you got anything for me?" And we'll say, "Well, no, no, we don't." Or someone might say, "Well, I don't have them out on the table, but I have this one book here that I've done." I've seen that happen for the older teens. But
Right.
no, the idea of KCC is that kids can walk around by themselves or with their parents, and whatever they see out on the table is not going to cover any of the areas that I've already just pointed out.
Right.
But now, again, how does one determine how to write for that? Again, and again, this is sometimes a bit more of a challenge and involves more research. But if you've never written for, let's say, 8 to 12 year olds, then I would say, go out, get some books that have been written for 8 to 12 year olds and get a sense of how they handle the material, particularly if it's material along the same lines as things you want to write about.
Yeah.
Look
And
at the
you
word
can do,
choices.
Alex, you can do that without spending a penny.
Yeah, you can go to
Just
a,
go to your library
yeah,
and go to a, library assistant or a librarian and say exactly that. I need to read some books that are B4, 8 to 10, 8 to 12, 12 to 14, whatever you think you want to write for. They'll show you exactly where the shelves are, and you get a
yeah.
bunch. And
You can sit there and read some of those, pick them
yeah,
out,
so
right?
so this is very doable.
Yeah.
What else do we need to do?
the other thing too is, and I say this to anybody writing anything, write stories that you feel compelled to write, but again, look at the age group that you're going for. So for instance, I will tell you this very quickly. There was a young lady in my screenwriting class, right, who did a wonderful story about this young boy who wakes up one morning in his family's house, his family members all around, and it seems like a normal morning to him. He wakes up, the mom's is talking about getting him cereal and all this kind of stuff, but there seems to be some other kind of energy or activity going on. And he goes in to say good morning to his grandmother, and she's sitting there and she's sniffling and wiping her eyes, and he hugs her and everything. And he says to her, I know you're sad, but grandpa's going to be, he's going to get better. It's going to be fine. And the mom comes in and says, come on, let me give you your cereal, get you some milk and all that, takes him away. And the grandmother's still dabbing her eyes. And while he's sitting there eating his cereal, he sees people going in, talking to the grandmother, and then running around and doing this, and he's not quite sure what to make of all this. And then suddenly his friends come over, his young friends come over, and they go to his room and they're starting to play games and things like that. But there's always this buzzing going on around among the adults. And what it really is that his grandfather in the night had passed. But no one's telling him that right now. So he's experiencing this, and we are experiencing it through his eyes. We as adults can get, oh, I think it's because. But for the child, it's wow, what's going, oh, my friends are here. Oh, we get to play games, because that's the child's worldview at that moment. And so being able to write your stories through the eyes of a child means that you have to sort of get your head into that place. And sometimes the first draft, as we often say here, it's just to tell the story to yourself. It's just to get it out. And then as you go through the rewrites, you can finesse it more
Right.
so that it works again in that realm.
But let's push the research on how do you
Sure.
get inside a kid's mind? Look around your life and see what kids are there that you know. Is it a niece? Is it a nephew?
Is it your own
Um,
children?
yeah, yeah. I remember we took my wife and I used to take my niece across the street from her house to this ice cream place she loved, and we did it to be in her presence because that was such a treat. But what I discovered was that bringing her there and getting her ice cream at 6, 7, 8 opened her up. And my wife is particularly great at talking with kids and just saying enough to get them going and then listening to them.
And
And
listening.
what I got to do was to watch the whole show and watch mannerisms and phrasings. So that's one way you can, what would it sound like? And of course, I love going out in public and not doing anything. You know, like
Or
I love
wandering
going,
through.
yeah, just following Glorious, or as she goes into a store, not that she does a lot of shopping, she does, but I will stand outside and what I like to call it is watch the parade.
Mm,
And if this is your project, if you want to, then watch how kids interact,
yeah.
right? Watch how they interact with each other, their parents, or whoever they're with, their environment, like the mall. And then it depends on what age, you know. I remember another niece, we were down in Atlantic City to see something. I forget what it was. It didn't involve gambling. I
Sure.
guess we were at Cape May and we went over for a day to see some of either, I don't, it seems like there was some kind of display or something like
Hmm.
that kids would like. And our niece was somewhere between 3 and 4. So we're in one of the hotels that had a very ornate purple and gold squares, like flourishes of design rug. And she found this amazing, which was fun to watch. But then when she ran and it all zipped by and created this other thing, she was delighted, and she would run and laugh and stop and look back to see if it was still swirling, and then run back and run it. And yeah,
That's
that's going to be
discovery. That's
yeah,
discovery,
all those things.
exploration and discovery.
Yeah, and I was blessed with twins by my wife, and one was very serious, always very serious, and very interested in sports. And the other one was just a natural performer, just laughing and goofing around and dancing. And I used to catch him jumping on the couch all the time. And he would, rather than apologize or pretend, he would just jump one more time and fold his legs under and land like he was, and just act like he had been sitting the entire time. This is your godson.
I figured that, yeah.
But when I was writing City of Woe, those kids were a gateway to empathy for the main character, both his own and the reader of, oh, look, he's got a, he's not just some automaton, he's got a family, a loving family. And it was just fantastic to write the little nuances
Yeah.
of the two different
Well,
characters.
you also wrote Genius High, and that's a whole teenage experience.
Yeah.
And
Well,
your research for that was
my job. I worked in a high school for it's about 25 years, something like that, pretty close to it. And I had worked, I guess, 23 and 2 years, 1 or 2 years in the middle school there. And then 5 years before that in middle school in the Bronx. So that age range is etched in my brain and my soul from every day. So a lot of that book is a direct reflection to things I saw, I witnessed, cadences, the looks. The thing I was asking before was when you, especially when you're a freshman or maybe a sophomore male, there's the occasional surprise, unwanted erection to deal with. And it's always humiliating. And without it being whipped out, as you say, the book opens with one of the main characters, reckless Eric, at his friend's house, who he has a huge crush on. And she jumped in the pool and coming out of the pool, and pool water's dripping off her. And it just, how the light gets golden when you're that age. And then he feels his Batman bat signal
trunks. Oh no.
trunks get tight, and he throws himself on the lounger so she won't see, and she's urging him in, come into the pool, and he's trying to figure out how to get there without her seeing before his other friend comes, who is hunkier than him. This guy's a little skinny guy, and he wants this time with her. And then her father comes out behind him, so he knows if he gets off that chair, he's going, and Dad, the cop, the detective sees it. And as the detective, he will notice these things. Then that's death.
Yeah.
And then his friend comes over and he's like, oh, now he's got competition. And he brings his sister, who has a crush on Reckless Eric, and sits right next to him. So he's trapped now. And he's trying desperately to just will it away.
Do math.
Algebra, please. And the way he gets out is hilarious.
But again, that's taking a real life scenario that's happened to countless males. How whether or not they reacted exactly the same way or not is not even the point. But that scenario, and using it in the story to build empathy and sympathy for characters, and to give your readers something to laugh at or relate to or whatever. That's perfect.
So that's a way of dealing with what could be not appropriate in an appropriate way.
Yeah, and because
if it was a school setting, the books would be in front of the pants, right?
Yeah.
Or the book bag would be in front.
Yes, right. Yeah, you'd find a way to obscure the vision.
Right.
And that's why I'm saying again, going back to one of your original questions, is how does one prepare themselves as a writer to write that appropriate material? One of them is looking around you. Another is pulling from your own experiences, interviewing people, reading other material that's in that same age range, and seeing how they handle things. Because especially with teen material. So there's 8 to 12, there's tweens, which is like 12 to 14, and then there's YA, which is like 14 or yeah, 14, 15 to 18, the young adults, YA. So these realms each come with their own set of rules, which, as society does what society does, some rules fade, some get a little bit more flexible, some get tighter. But the reality is, there are ways to couch the material so
Right.
that it is appropriate for the readership. And even within the tweens material, so again, you're talking like 12 to 14, they have done books about kids who are suddenly becoming aware of themselves as a sexual being or a physical being, but they've done it in a way that's not as graphic or specifically sexual, in a way that makes it seem more sensationalistic. They've done it in a way that this is a normal thing this particular character is going through. It's a normal thing that many human beings go through. Here's more of the emotional thing that they're dealing with. Here's how their lives are working out. So there are ways of approaching certain material and making it, again, I have to use the word appropriate, making it more appropriate for a general readership. And I think that those are necessary thoughts to have when you're going to write for a particular age group, especially younger kids. Some people will say, oh, kids are more mature now and everything. Not really. I think what we're doing is kids can be more aware of things. We are certainly giving them more information about how the world works, sometimes way before they're ready for it, but it's all out there because of the internet and just again where society is at this point. But that doesn't mean that they process it well. Doesn't mean that it's all making sense to them. And so I think it's good to have material that a young person can enjoy for the pure fun of it and it be, dare I use the word, more innocent in its material. And then I think there's material that can say, here's life and some of the things you might encounter as you're growing up. And then there can be intense material that really looks at troubling scenarios in the life of a teenager or a young person. And that can be handled without it being sensationalistic. And then after a certain point in space and time, you're considered an adult and you can roll out there and read whatever you want. But I just think it's important that we more consistently create material for young people, for children, to encourage them to read, to encourage them to be curious, to encourage them to imagine possibilities, to encourage them to be creative. And my last qualifier on that is when I say creative, I'm not saying, oh, yeah, so we're going to turn all children into painters and writers and musicians and choreographers.
Oh,
Literally, Fortune 500 companies are looking for people who can think outside the box.
right,
Problem solving is being able to think outside the box, to
right.
not to walk up to the wall and go, oh, a wall. Well, I'll just stare at this until something happens. It's how do I get around it? How do I get under it, over it, through it, whatever. So stimulating the mind to be able to think outside is creative thinking.
Okay. So that's what we want to provide for young readers.
Yeah.
So I have to run for a second, but I'm going to ask you to name 5 ways emerging writers can put that in their story. And I'll be able to hear you as I go and
5 ways emerging
take
writers
care of
can
those.
put what in their stories?
That kind of writing that is acceptable for younger,
Ah,
okay?
okay.
Right? Let's say they have a crime idea or a horror idea. Rebecca Cuthbert did this very well with a children's book.
Well, let me
How
go
do
with
you
the
do that?
let me go
I'll be right back.
with crime and with like a mystery, and then I'll do a little superhero thing. So, for instance, with crime, there was a wonderful series of books for 8 to 12-year-olds called the A to Z Mysteries, and literally it was 3 friends who were around that 11-year-old range, and they would keep encountering mysteries. Each book was a letter of the alphabet, so the A, whatever the mystery was, had something to do with an A, and the next book was a B, and the next book was a C. But what it was there was nobody got killed, no one got maimed. There was nothing that was life threatening on that level of where the knife is at the throat and that sort of thing. It was not extreme suspense and fear. But in tracking down the thief, if the thief caught us, what could happen? But he didn't, or at the last moment the police arrived or something like that. You never put the in the younger books, you never put the children in absolute horror danger, where they literally could lose their lives and or they get injured and they're bleeding profusely. That's not appropriate for the 8 to 12 marketplace. Again, in general,
So
right?
no F-bombs, no blood,
No blood, right?
no
No
on-stage
cursing.
blood, no
Yeah,
on-stage
right.
blood,
No,
no
yeah, right.
cursing, no
Okay,
overt sex.
right. None of that in the 8 to 12 marketplace. It's just not necessary. And again, as Chris has said, sometimes it can pull a person out of the story. Or as young Tyler said, too much blood on the cover. Because really, where does that take you? What kind of injury are we thinking about? Oh my God, you want to make it palpable for them that they can feel a little chill and thrill of tracking down, in a mystery, tracking down the bad guys, and maybe we can catch them, but they're not worrying about having their heads blown off or
Right.
being garroted or poisoned or run over. These are the things that you keep that danger level just enough to keep it suspenseful, but not enough to make it scary, horrible. Superhero stories. There are a ton of stories about Superman or some of the other characters when they were younger. And a lot of those stories, yeah, they fight aliens or things like that. But it's also how does it feel to be a boy in this case, or Supergirl to be a girl in this case? What am I dealing? Or Spider-Man, even better. Spider-Man, Peter Parker. He's trying to navigate high school. He's got a bully that's giving him a hard time. He's not a popular kid at all. He's a nerd as far as everybody's concerned.
Or
He's
these days, Miles Morales.
Yeah, Miles Morales, right? So Miles is not a nerd, but yeah, but again, you're trying to figure out how do I fit in to this high school scenario, and there's a girl I like, or there's somebody that I want to impress or whatever, but I don't know if I can. I got to deal with my parents. They want me to do this, and I want to do that. Oh, and I have superpowers. Okay, so now what? Can I do whatever I want to do? Here comes a moral dilemma. If you are a 14-year-old kid and suddenly you can lift a truck, you can outrun a police car, you can climb buildings and leap off of skyscrapers and attach to things, you can do some dangerous stuff. What's to stop me? Moral question, ethical questions. What's to stop me? Spider-Man's whole thing about why his Uncle Ben was killed is because he didn't step in and stop a thief who was escaping from a different scenario. He didn't bother. It's not my problem. It's your problem he got your money. It's not, it doesn't involve me. That same thief later winds up killing his uncle.
He started, and there's a bigger lesson in there because he was being treated unfairly and he started going down that path
Yeah,
and it cost him his uncle's life, and that thrust him into
exactly.
the hero mentality out of guilt.
Well,
There's an
again, first it
amazing
was it was revenge and then redemption, and then like again the hero's mentality. With great power comes great responsibility. But
tough
what I'm
lesson.
saying here is again, yeah, you're going to put your characters into extraordinary circumstances, but they're still those people. They are
Right.
still a teenage boy or a teenage girl. They are still black or white or Hispanic or Native American or whatever. And those are things that they have to deal with in life and this other stuff. In Genius High, you have this strange scenario. I don't want to give anything away, but you have this strange, scary scenario going on in a high school with
Right.
high school age teenagers who
Well,
are going through life and oh
right.
damn, here's this thing
Right.
that's
Well,
threatening.
I'll give a little more because
Okay.
every high school student has dealt with testing and the pressures of testing, and there's many communities where the pressure to succeed in that testing gets absurd, and that's where the evil begins.
Yeah. And
And
again, it's not in this particular case, it's not like, oh, so somebody's going to cheat on a test. No, we're talking about some serious messed up stuff going
right,
on here. And again, a diverse series of
Very
characters.
diversity. Sure, sure, sure.
Yeah, and as you said, you pulled from your 30 years of experience in the halls,
Yeah.
in and among that population, observing and hearing and interacting with. You pulled from that. And so that goes back to your question. How do you write for these things? Again, pull from life, watch life, learn from life, make
Yep.
notes, pull from your own personal experiences, but also interview people, read material that is appropriate to that age group, and then see what you can gain from that material. These
Uh-huh.
are things that you do to fine tune your sensibilities to the arena that you want to move through, that you want to
Right.
work within.
And that's a perfect segue into, again, we can never say this enough, first draft, let it suck. Overwrite,
Yeah,
overwrite, cross those lines. There you might slip in a curse. You might go a
yeah,
little too far because in the rewrite, you pull it back. Okay, I can't curse here. What would be believable to say instead? Okay, that person punched him and he broke his nose and blood all over the place. What can I do instead that would be more appropriate but still make my point? Because in that first draft, you might do all those things,
yeah,
but what you're really going to get out is the subtext, the idea that you're trying to express. How you express it, the beauty of the rewrite is how you express it gets finessed, and in this case, might get pulled back so it's acceptable to the level of reader that you're going for, you know?
exactly. And again, I will say this because I said at some point earlier in this, but who remembers? If you do write that stuff that has, the language or the extreme this or that, and okay, fine. It's for the audience that you're going to go and discover and find. That's what it is. That's the
Right.
reality of that. But also understand that there are also other venues that you may want to enter that have different rules. And so
Right.
to jam your thing into that because, well, I wrote it, so it should be just as valid. Yeah, you wrote it and it is valid, but not in this marketplace.
Well,
Yeah.
and that's an important lesson. I remember there's one person in particular, a young lady, who one of the classes I taught when I was a teacher was creative writing. And it was my third, fourth, fifth year of writing creative writing or teaching creative writing. So I was quite used to editing the students' work because
Hmm.
that's what you do, right? That's part of your function as a creative writing teacher. So I read this person's stuff and I asked some questions and made some editorial suggestions and gave them all back. And she was absolutely livid,
Uh,
absolutely livid. How dare you touch even the least letter of my writing? I don't know if she said the word sacred, but she definitely meant
mm,
that her writing was sacred. And I was like, that's kind of why you signed up for this, to see if you can get your writing more polished. But no, my writing is perfect because I wrote it. I was like, well, I don't know who taught you that lesson, but every writer, name the writer you most love in this world. That person has been edited. And she was furious. She dropped the class. And then she took, I think I was also teaching drama at the time. And she took that class just so the first day she could oh, hell no, she said, and turned around and stormed out of the auditorium. And, but did she learn? Did she get better? I never found out because I've never saw any more of her writing and all that sort of stuff. Of course, I wish her well because she was just a kid and all that. But as writers ourselves,
yeah,
we have to get away from that kind of mentality and ask ourselves the much more helpful question: is this appropriate? Can I do how can I say it better for the audience I'm trying to reach?
yeah,
Because it's not about you being right or wrong as an author. It's about how you can be more successful. And I'm not talking about some secret process or right, the big bucks. If someone gets the big bucks, God bless you.
Yeah.
But your goal is to write something that reaches somebody else and hopefully touches them in some way, guides them in some way. And the other stuff, I mean, there is a mindset, how to make $1 million by next weekend. This is not that show.
Yeah, right. But by the way, if you find that show, do let us know.
Sure. So there, it's necessary to be able to get beyond that first word, best word. You know, my stuff is untouchable. Get past that and touch it.
Yeah.
How
and
can I
touch
make
it many
better?
times? Yeah.
How can I make it better? And I always go, again, this is a lesson that we've said before, but read it out loud like you're getting paid all that much money. And you will be able to hear it, and you'll pronouncing it. If a
Phrase or
sentence
something.
is too long or too awkward, trying to say it out loud will tell you.
Yeah.
If the dialogue is tin and fake sounding, your ear will hear it. If you're reading it out loud, you're looking at it more attentively, and you'll see, wow, I used the word flabbergasted 6 times on this page, right? Or whatever, you know, sure, that's an easy fix. That's not you didn't do anything wrong. You just created an opportunity to write it better.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
And
in this particular marketplace, all of those skills really help you.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Any
And on
last
that
advice, sir?
Yeah, no, on that note, I would say that again, we segued nicely into we got there to the writing information that we wanted to share. But I think once again, I'll just say that writing for young people is as valid as any other genre realm that you can experience. And so subsequently give it some thought. I've certainly enjoyed it and have written older material as well, but you know, there's something to be said for just having fun with the material. And also, if you're fortunate enough to run into people later in years who have read a story that you wrote for the younger market and have them share with you the effect it had on them, you know, it's a positive effect, you know, that's a wonderful thing too. Thank you, Chris, for letting me pontificate, you know, talk about Golly Gee, you know, Kids Comic Con. Again, Saturday, December 13th in the Bronx Community College, 183rd Street and University Avenue. Be there or be square between 10 a.m. and 5 p.m.
And if this has inspired you at all to consider writing for, you know, a younger age group, go tell that story. Go ahead.
Right after you
notice how we didn't say the D word, because, you know, younger audience.
Right.
Tell that darn story.
Right after
first,
you press.
But first.
Yes. Subscribe.
Like,
like and subscribe. Please press that button.
If you know somebody who loves writing young people's stuff, share this story with this episode with them. Say, hey, this might be something you're interested in.
Yeah.
All right. If you have comments, if you have questions, if you have a children's rhyme about this show, please put it in the comments. All right, everybody.
Share with us. Take care, everybody. Thanks, Chris.
Peace.